Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. Yeah, trying to change up the intros a little bit for you guys on these podcasts. So today, we are going to travel all the way on the other side of the world, Tokyo Poetry Journal, as promised. Right, I'm gonna go through it for you guys. So, let's dig in. Again, before we dive in here, so I covered car malarkey on the past podcast episode, and P.S. guys, I did go back and just enter in my chill subs tracker stat in there because I think when I had done it at the time, they weren't like in there, as a suggested listing or anything like that. So now, since it's in there, right, I just went in and just re-entered that. Yeah, so it shows up. And I'm not, again, absolutely certain on their current HQ or base, right? And just based off of the CMP, right, page that we came across. But in either case, I think Carmelarchy is cool. The main reason I wanted to cover them again is because they just showcase, right, that you can have a very uniquely themed literary arts journal or magazine, right? You can cover almost any topic you'd like, or be open themed, of course. But for, if you're going to start a lit mag or journal, it can be around something you are very passionate about, right? So just keep that in mind, if you're listening to this series and, you're aspiring publisher or looking to start your own publication or series, right? It can be built around that if you really want to. And others can also, if that same passionate or relate to it, right, can submit work to it, right? Following the guidelines, of course, that you create. But yeah, just wanted to reiterate that again. So yeah, let's dig in now to Tokyo Poetry Journal. So I am going to start by going out to Duotrope and just share a little bit about TBJ. Yeah. So Tokyo Poetry Journal, aka Pojo or TPJ, as I said, is a publication of poetry, art, reviews, and criticism, bringing poetry to and through and from the Tokyo world of words and sound since 2015. So yeah, I'm just gonna get started here and go through it with you guys. I'm on Duotrope again. It's a great way to find more information about lit mags and journals. So, Tokyo Poetry Journal, aka Topojo or TPJ, is a publication of poetry, art, reviews, and criticism, bringing poetry to, through, and from the Tokyo world of words and sound since 2015. And yeah, so they've been around, for it looks like 10 years here. It says published twice a year. It doesn't look like, well, based on Duotrope, it says they're temporary closed, right? Not open right now. Again, you can always double check on a literary magazine or journal's website to confirm this, right? But good places to check are Duotrope and Chill Subs again. So it says no line limits, 3 to 5 pieces. And I'm sure this is also on their website, right? Outline. The cool thing here on Duotrope, sometimes you'll come across these fun things, right? Insight into editors' preferences. It says read Duotrope's interviews with editors, right? So we click into this. I don't think I've showed you guys this before. So yeah, you can read more about this interview. Now, this may not be the current editor in chief, so just keep that in mind, or the current editor. Sometimes there are different editors for, lit magazine journals or rotated or sometimes EICs change. So, but yeah, nevertheless, this is cool. So it gives you insight into the publication, right? So I'm just going to state this here. The question was, what sets their publication apart from others that publish similar material? It says here by Jordan A. Y. Smith back in 2021. Um, they focus on the Tokyo poetry world as well as Japanese poetry, broadly defined as any poetry with a toehold in Japan, written in Japanese or between Japanese and other languages, written in Japan, inspired by Japan and Japanese or slash Japanese, right? It says they publish almost entirely in English, so Japanese poetry is published in translations. They also love to feature art, interviews, photography, book reviews, and scholarly essays fitting the above description. So yeah, I think that's really neat. There are, you know, lit magazine journals out there that, sometimes they do the opposite, right? I've seen some that, have, right, Japanese poetry, and then they translate it into English too. And yeah, and then there are others like this, right, where the poems are predominantly in English, but they also do translations, right? And Japanese poetry. So some places do a mix, of translations, or some places don't do translations. I personally really love seeing translated poetry. I think it's fun just to languages in general, like to learn and to read that and to see a side by side. There are some poets in the community that I've interviewed or chatted with in community on the podcast I run, right, Hummingbird Blink, when we started, right, the interview series. I don't think, guys, personally, PS note here, that I'll do an interview series on this podcast. Who knows? But I did that a little bit more so on Hummingbird Blink, that format, right? Questions and answers with poets and writers. And then sometimes I would do, I had some one on one chats with poets, but also I had some pre recorded episodes too because of schedules and time zone differences, right? So yeah, it was still fun to do commentary, and to do conversational episodes like that. Yeah, and there were some poets, right, that literally did, read a poem in English and then translated it, or read it in another language, right? We had, poets from Europe, and also we had poets share in Spanish and things like that, way, way back in the series, right? Unfortunately, just, season 1 to 2, only couldn't carry outside of, because Spotify changed their structure, right? The music and feature that platform, music and talk, right? So that's why we have season 3 and up outside of other platforms. But I wanted to keep that podcast around because it holds a lot of memories, and a lot of our listings are tied to that anyway. Where the podcast series is tracked, so it doesn't really make sense to leave it. We have another separate audio series now, and we're doing like video focused episodes. But in either case, I think what TPJ is doing is really awesome. I personally, guys, by the way, I have ties to Japan, I guess you could say. My family does. We've done, I don't know, I may have mentioned this somewhere, but we've done a lot of activities actually in my family that are all derived or originate from Japan. And yeah, I'm not going to go into all of them now, but maybe I'll share it as an additional bonus, if you want to learn more about me or what I'm saying, right? I have Southeast Asian roots myself, but, Japan's in East Asia, right? So Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, right? So I've been out to Japan when I was little. I've been out there. Just the airport, guys, just the airport. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see much of Japan when I was little, or go outside. But Osaka, Japan, I never forgot, seeing the airport, right? I remember there was this gentleman sleeping on the chairs waiting for his flight. And, I was just like people watching a lot back then in the airport. And of course, getting some fun things from the gift shops, right? I got this like collapsible, I think, lantern somewhere between connecting flights, and it had Pokemon on it. And then I picked up this limited edition Hello Kitty. I think it was Hello Kitty twistable crayon set. And then I never wanted to open or use it because I was like, I want something, when you travel to a place, you may not come back to for a while, you want to hold on to it as a memento or memory, right? Something to remember it by. You don't want to like, really touch it, right? Leave it in mint condition. So yeah, I haven't been over there since I was, that side of the world, since I was 11. So it's been about, 19 years, guys, 19 years since I've seen my fam, on my dad's side, right, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. But yeah, yeah, totally. In my fam, we've done a lot of things tied to, that have Japanese origins. And yeah, so I'll do a bonus portion on this podcast about that. But let's take a quick tour around Tokyo Poetry Journal so I can show you around it a little bit more and just give my comments and thoughts. I have actually, I may have submitted to, by the way, Tokyo Poetry Journal in the past. I can't remember exactly. It looks like their website's changed, or I could be wrong. It could have been another lit mag or journal based out of Japan, or Asia. I can't remember exactly. But in either case, yeah, let's check out the submission guidelines like I usually do. So yeah, they have this call from 2024, and some older calls up. You can see what types of calls they had, right? Visual Poetry Volume 15 back in 2023. And that's cool. I think that's nice. It's that they have like an actual, distinct call for visual poetry in the past. It's a lot of fun, when places are like, yeah, have fun with it, be playful with your language, take it, change the shape of it, and really experiment. Sometimes when you do that for submissions outside of visual poetry, right, it's like you have to, it has to really, whether or not, it's a call for that, right, you have to consider, does the shape add value to the poem? Like, are you, adding to it, or is it taking away from the poem? Because sometimes I see poets do these, kind of bizarre shapes, or very, they try to get really abstract with it, but then like if you put the poem line to line, back to back, what's left there, right? Is it still strong as is without the shape there, right? So you want to still be as powerful as you are in, your word choices when you're playing with visual poetry. But yeah, I think that's awesome. And yeah, so I won't go through all their past calls, right? Then they take things via email, but they have their general submission guidelines here, right? And I covered it with you guys. 12. It's pretty standard, right? 12 point times New Roman font, 1 inch margins all around. Smart quotes, please. It says for any text where formatting is important, include a PDF as well as a Word file. And yeah, and they have it where they do permit, your name to be in the file name, the author name, number of poems, right? And then for translations, they want the translator name included in the body of the poem text somewhere. And then yeah, and then include their submission, include with your submission a bio of 100 to 150 words for the poet, author, and translator, if applicable. And they reserve to edit for length and clarity, right? And yeah, they only take, email submissions here. It says no less than 3 poems and no more than 6. Do not submit revisions of previously rejected work. Um, they consider bilingual and multilingual texts. Authors and translators are responsible for securing copyright permission. Submissions should be in English or in Japanese with English translation. Again, so yeah, they feature poems with some connection to Tokyo, Japan, at the textual or authorial level. They're not so into poems about cherry blossoms, etc., and exceptions apply, but cliches and or Orientalist verses are unwelcome. Yeah. So yeah, they're volunteer staff, and yeah. So I can't remember if I submitted to them or it was another place. I think it could have been another journal or lit mag in Asia. But I've submitted to a couple, on that side of the world for sure. I mentioned I got an acceptance from, I think it's Diacritics or Diacritics or DVAN, and it's a DIACRIT ICS, right? I think, yeah. But yeah, and they were looking for, those with ties to Southeast Asia particularly. But yeah, Tokyo Poetry Journal, right? So it doesn't necessarily say anything about excluding international submissions. If you're ever unsure if a place takes, international submissions, always ask. It's better to ask than to submit, and they're like, oh no, we can't because of your location or something like that, or to get a rejection because of that. So some places only have a set, like Canada, for example, right? There are quite a few lit magazine journals out there that do have windows for international submissions, but then they do have windows for, poets just from or based out of Canada or live there, right? But yeah, there are times you'll come across lit magazine journals that are like, we only accept submissions from those who are, from here or live in this country, right? So yeah, you have to keep that in mind, and just ask if you're not sure. It looks like, yeah, so I don't, yeah, so it looks like, I think they have had changes for editors over each volume, or some of the volumes is what I recall, when I was browsing around a tad earlier. It says Daito Bunka. I could be mispronouncing that university. The English department, Jeffrey Johnson. So yeah, I'm gonna go out to the masthead page here too, and I won't read everyone's bio, of course. Um, but yeah, I think it's Daito Bunka University. Yeah, it's hard, some pronunciations. I probably am gonna mess up everyone's name, by the way, so I apologize in advance. Like you may notice, guys, sometimes I mix up. I sometimes accidentally say Zine over Zine, and it actually rhymes with my, full name. Actually, my actual full name, right? So I actually shouldn't trip up on that, considering it. Anyways, so Jeffrey Johnson is the editor in chief, or he has been for volumes 13 through 18. And so yeah, he's the TPJ co-founder. Jeffrey Johnson is a professor in the English department again of Daito Bunka University. I'll just say DBU, where he teaches undergraduate and graduate literature and culture courses. He has written about comparative poetics and participates in poetry events around Tokyo, including reading his own poetry to musical accompaniment. So yeah, it looks like he's the author of haiku poetics in the 20th century and avant-garde poetry and several other publications. And then the lead editor of Volume 11 and the visual visionary poetry 15, right? Zoria Petkoska. I could be completely mispronouncing that. Zoria is a visual poet, and yeah. So just keep that in mind. I saw, in the interview section, there was an editor, interviewed there, right, in the Duotrope, right? So, right, back in 2021. So I'm not sure if it looks like here the editor in chief changes, or who oversees the volumes perhaps changes, is what I'm thinking. But nevertheless, you can see their volunteer staff. That's really cool. They have volunteers, who are originally from, the States, but have been, living in Japan for quite some time. Like Marcellus here. That's cool. I was reading about Marcellus, and yeah, says he has been living in Japan since 1992. So that's very cool. And yeah, so they have their whole staff here, right? That's nice. They have a board of advisors, and previously Jordan. Um, it says previously editor in chief at Topojo for volumes 7 through 12, and Japanese poetry editor for volumes 2 to 6. So yeah, you can see they had different EICs for each volume, right? Just an example. So that makes sense now. I completely missed that. I was scrolling a little bit fast. But yeah, so I think it's really cool what they're doing here. You can see they have all the volumes here. They have, different ones, right? And yeah, so I obviously am not going to go through all of these, but it's cool nevertheless. I think my page was stuck there for a second. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's cool nevertheless, right? Yeah, you can, buy their issues. Now it's in yen, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I do know how much 3,000 yen is, guys. Conversion rate, is that like 20 something bucks? I could be wrong. Don't guarantee that. But 3,000 yen, what is that? Is that 20 something dollars? Gosh, guys, this is something I have to look up, the conversion rates. But anyways, really cool. I don't think they have some titles, I think, where they had volume 9, like, some issues, right, where it was you know gender queer, and they've had some like that too. And yeah, themed ones, queer poets in Japan, right? So yeah, it looks like Tokyo Poetry Journal is diverse and inclusive for sure. Japan and the beat, so that looks cool. Music and poetry, I like that, right? So yeah, it's pretty cool. Music and poetry. Yeah, I think they go hand in hand, right? They've had some interviews with musicians way back, and yeah, things like that. So I think the menu is. Oh yeah, I had to go up. So yeah, so they've had some really cool issues, and you can see they had some performances that, from way back that you can listen to. I saw that they also had, way back, a SoundCloud account like this. Some places have these, lit magazine journals where they upload spoken word. Even we've done that from time to time at, the lit magazine journal I run, right, Dippy. There are different ways you can. SoundCloud has a pretty limited plan on how, you can, they have a cap on the free plan. So I don't like places that have, caps, and then, if you stop paying, right, then you have to, only a certain amount of your tracks are left up. But yeah, this is from 8 years ago. Nevertheless, cool to listen to. I'm gonna check it out sometime. I'm a huge fan of spoken word, listening to open mic events and all of that stuff. I love seeing that. So yeah, who knows? I may cover an episode on the best ways to, share spoken word, in your publication, or just examples of what various lit magazine journals do, including my own, to highlight that a little bit further. Spoken word artistry is really beautiful, and just hearing poets' voices, I think it's really lovely again. So yeah, that's TPJ. I'm gonna go out to their shop and just a couple more places, just show you around. So yeah, the 1 year subscription is like 3,500 yen. So I think that's, yeah, I think that's 20 something dollars. I could be wrong. 2 year subscription, 7,000 yen. You could do a 3 year subscription, 10,000 yen. Yeah. So yeah, these are all the titles lined up. Yeah, so it looks like they've had some photography and some in past issues. I like seeing, I mentioned this on one of the episodes, I think the 32 poems episode. You could see over the years, right, decade after decade, right, or year after year, how the journal covers evolved a little bit, right? Sometimes, if a place has been around a while, the cover style may change, a little bit. Or sometimes like we're doing a reboot or a relaunch essentially of our one of our main series. But yeah, any case, I think that's nice. They do a mix, right, of some really cool art, and I think that's photography, right? So that's really cool. Yeah, and they have like different themed volumes, and it's pretty nice. So yeah, I think if we scroll down here, books, right? Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. I didn't click on it directly, but they have a drop down for that. So I think it's DYS Tokyo, Dystokyo. It ships only in Japan. What's that about? Let's click on it, guys. I'm interested. So that's 1,600 yen, or and then so yeah, it's about cyberpunk poetry. Oh, that's very cool. It's only shipped in Japan, guys. So yeah, it says only shipped in Japan. The book will be shipped after February 16th. Internet. Oh, it says international readers can buy the book on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes and Noble, etc. Though. So yeah, that's nice though. Yeah, I might have to check that out. Again, some titles, well, some lit magazine journals have titles where I showed you, right, or chapbooks and presses even, they have, limited stock quantities, or sometimes they have things pushed out to online bookstores. So that's nice that they have those options. But it says, yeah, it's they have, I don't, yeah, so it looks like they have some of their titles, right, only shipped in Japan, it looks like, and then some are pushed out to online bookstores. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, like these, and yeah, so you just have to check, right, the availability of, in online bookstores and which ones, and read carefully in the bottom. Just to clarify, right? Yeah, so they have some really cool, books and publications. Um, yeah, from, yeah. So let's go back here. So yeah, I think, Tokyo Poetry Journal does a great job. TPJ Presses, they have a great series there. Um, yeah. The only thing, they don't have a submission management system, and not everyone does, right? So a lot of places have run for, as you can see, a long time without really leveraging one. And yeah, it's not absolutely necessary. I think about their submission page, it would be, I think nice for some of these to be collapsible, the older calls, so then we just see like the current, calls or the general submissions. And in terms of, they have some reviews here too, which is nice. And then, you can, of course, they have their editorial team all listed out about them all. I think that's great to see. You always want to see, right, the editorial team visible and who's behind it. So that's wonderful that they do that. They also have a blog here that is, Eco Poetry Volume Launch. And they have some done book launches. So they really, try to do promotional events around the publications they do. So that's awesome, and some really fun things. That was from June 23rd. That, so yeah, they are still active, doing some really awesome things. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. They have a shop, I just showed you that, and yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything. Again, I don't, in regards to like their issues though, actually let's go back to their shop. So yeah, in regards to their issues, so if we click into one of these, I'm just gonna click into one to show you guys. So yeah, I think it would be nice to maybe have some, I don't know if they have more on their blog here, or any further publication. Oh yeah, they have some other stuff on their blog. Um, yeah, they had like they were discussing like poem micro series, it looks like, and visual exhibition launches, and yeah, so they document, a lot of the events. They document a lot of the events, and they even say how to collect the invisible poem. So yeah, But I think it would be nice to see, and they've done some interviews, it looks like, I think, and poetry in the park. So yeah, they do a lot of events and activities. I think it'd be nice to see some more samples of poems too, online in the space, and maybe a search of some kind. That's my only comment about the site. Other than that, yeah, it's awesome what Tokyo Poetry Journal does. So, sites change, as I mentioned, over the years, and it looks like they rotate editors in chief EICs, right? So, I'm not sure. Some places do that. They don't always have the same editor overseeing a launch, release, or the finalization. I think that's nice. It's fun to do that, too. Having others involved in the team and really, going through the whole process of, selection, and yeah. So I love seeing places that go the extra mile totally and do events like this. So they really showed that. I also think I saw that on their social media a little bit more behind this, some of the events that they do, at Tokyo Poetry Journal. So yeah, I just wanted to cover it with you guys. I think it is tough, writing. I don't know how many of you guys, well, it's tough. I've tried writing poetry in other languages, not Japanese, but I've, of course, I think a lot of us have tried writing haikus, and I totally have, written haikus. I haven't had any haikus accept or anything like that, but I've written poetry in, I mentioned this on the podcast just for fun. You know, um, I took, Spanish in middle school, and then, I think sixth through eighth grade, and then ninth grade. Um, but yeah, I was never fluent in it, and, English. My dad never really spoke any other language growing up, although he can, he knows other languages. He never did. So I never really picked up anything, and any languages. I sort of have like Punjabi roots, right? And Sikh, but my dad, he doesn't wear like have a beard or a turban or anything like that. But yeah, I was still exposed a lot to that culture though, and Southeast Asian culture too. Predominantly, I yeah, I have roots again. Predominantly, my mom, on her side, right, African American, and then Southeast Asian on my dad's side. So yeah, I grew up a lot around Asian culture though, and my dad wanted me to toughen up. So I ended up doing Shotokan karate classes, and yeah, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, so this is the part of the additional bonus, episode of the podcast now. So you totally check out, Tokyo Poetry Journal. I don't know when they're going to be back open. That's my only thing. I think it would be nice to see, anticipated deadlines or something, because I think when you go here, you don't see anything from 2025. It'd be nice to have an update here about some things happening in 2025, or to have this pulled to the top. Right. But anyways, some places do that, and that's totally okay, right? As long as, they have their guidelines outlined, and, it looks like they are active, right, in doing events. So, yeah, they've done a lot of volumes, and they've been around for a very long time. So I must say it's really beautiful work overall. I haven't, picked up issues or anything from TBJ Press at this moment, but definitely will I try to circle back to places, of course, when my own budget allows, right, to pick up and publications from presses, from fellow presses and lit magazine journals out there, right? Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. Now back to the additional bonus content, right? So I share in this podcast personal memories and how I relate, or things that lit magazine journals remind me of. So yeah, my dad had me, go into Shotokan karate classes. So if you don't know what I'm saying, I'll pull it up for you guys here. So, Shotokan karate is, I'm just going to quote this off the site. So, it's known for its powerful dynamic techniques, deep stances, and focus on mental and character development alongside physical skill. Emphasizes powerful strikes, linear movements, kata forms, and philosophical principles like discipline and respect. So, yeah. So I'm not an expert martial artist, guys, at all. You're like, oh, Jazz knows karate. We should stay away from her. No, guys. So, yeah. And it's so LL, honestly. So, just sharing, in terms of like Shotokan karate, right? I started, I think, in middle school, and I went up to Greenbelt, right? And my dad's always like, "You only stopped at Greenbelt. How could you?" You know. But more so, I stopped doing karate because I had a lot of classes, and stuff. It was tough to do that after school, and yeah, so I really, had to think about that and just, stop doing it. But I do have, by the way, guys, some black belts in my family with Shotokan karate for sure, right? I remember doing my katas and we had to, do our tests, right? We usually had to pair up for a test. And it was always interesting. There was this first place I went off to, it was like by where the first Seward Co op used to be back in Minnesota. But they relocated anyways. But it was this cool place that they did like yoga and other classes in, and they had this wood floor and sliding doors like in the dojo. I always really struggled with like the belt knot. I always struggled for a long time. It took me a while to get that down, but it's really hard to tie those gis, right? The white uniform. And I was like really struggling with that. But it was fun nevertheless, I it was a good way to get exercise and really, things like that, right? I wasn't trying to be Karate Kid or anything like that, but I've totally watched all those movies too. I think I like the originals more so. I saw like but I saw I still watched all of the Cobra Kai ones, but not. I'm more of a person who likes the original movies and classics. If I like them, right, then remakes and reboots aren't necessarily my all time fave. But I would say there was some. It was interesting for sure. The Netflix one, right, Cobra Kai, right. So they made it had some dark moments to it too, and nevertheless, yeah, I'm not a martial arts expert, but yeah, so I was exposed to Shotokan karate, quite some time, Japanese martial arts, and I grew up watching a lot of martial art movies with my dad, all the time. It was just something we used to do, and Ip Man, Jet Li movies, Jackie Chan, all of that. Yeah, and Bruce Lee. My dad was rewatching that just earlier this year too, and obviously, you guys know probably, other, I've probably seen some other shows and around that and stuff. Yeah, so we used to say in karate, right? Kia, right? Kia, Kia. Sorry, I'm not going to shout on this podcast, but Kia, right? I used to shout. I'm not going to shout on this podcast, but it was Kia. Everyone had like a shout when they would like, do their katas or Lisa. When you have to do a fist punch in the air, right? You have to like shout or do an exhale release and all of that. Like we did breathing exercises, we did jumping jacks, we rotated our arms, we did leg stretches, warm ups, all of that stuff. So, yeah, I definitely ended up pulling my muscle, not with Shotokan karate, but more so with dance classes when I was younger. I did dance classes before I did Shotokan, karate. More so when I was much younger. I think somewhere before age 10, I think it was Bharatanatyam dances. Yeah, it was like almost like a dance style derived from India. And, I had the whole outfit and stuff. And yeah, maybe I'll show you guys sometime, but not now. Yeah, I did some dance performances at, the Southern Theater. And my mom, right? My mom did taiko drumming, which is what you heard, may have heard on this podcast if the audio retains there. Taiko drumming. If you've never heard, taiko drumming performances, never seen them, def check it out. It looks like this essentially. So my mom was she joined, Mu theater performances or their taiko group there, and it was really cool. She's had done it for a very long time, several years, and my dad and I used to go to her performances, and it was just a lot of fun, to see her do that. She really loved it. I think they have taiko, drumming over here in some states, right, too, Nevada, but most she did it in Minnesota, right? So and it was fun, the performances to see it. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, they've been around for quite some time, so you can watch. They have like stuff on their YouTube channels and social media, so you can watch what a performance looks like. It's pretty neat. I think they still have some. I think I saw online some pics of my mom actually. Some places that I came across on some channels way back that I came across. Yeah, so of practice, and things. So from way back. She doesn't do it anymore, but she loved it for sure. I actually tried taiko drumming myself when they came. They came to my school, elementary school, when I was little and or younger, and they had us like take these wood, boards with a hole in it, and then we would put clear duct tape around it. We had to wind clear duct tape around like 100 bunch of times, and then we would take the taiko drum, those sticks, right? And then we did a performance. We propped them up on chairs, and that's how they had us create, almost like a real, traditional drum, that sound. And I thought it was so cool. So it was a lot of fun. And then from there, my mom just like really, got interested into it more and ended up joining the group and doing, performances and going to practice. And yeah, she loved it. So yeah, my fam has, ties to a lot of Japanese activities, over the years: Shotokan, karate, taiko, drumming, and origami. My mom was, always till today, my mom absolutely loves origami. She does it all the time. She did it in her classes. She always, shares with her students. She's like all about that. So that's really cool. Yeah, so she usually did, like paper cranes like this. And she can do all kinds of stuff. I'm not an origami expert or origamist. Is that what it's called? I think isn't there a poetry journal called Origami or something? I could be wrong. I'm gonna look that up if there is. But yeah. So origami is a very intricate art, right? Paper folding. I have some examples of ones I did. I'll share with you guys for fun. So these are some of the early origami or folds I did, right? I think these are back from middle school or way back, guys. And then I used to do these origami boxes you can see here, right? I can't do these anymore, I don't think, and like these, right? So yeah, totally origami, right? I used to love making these origami boxes and putting things in them just for fun. But yeah, I can't. I don't. My memory's rusty, but I'm sure it's hard, and yeah. Anyways, it's fun, I love seeing 3D origami art, dragons and stuff. There's some really cool accounts out there and experts on it for sure. My mom absolutely loves it. Yeah. So aside from that, I'm sure you're all familiar with, Japanese comics, anime and manga, right? All of that. And yeah, so I am, my pronunciation, I think a lot of people struggle with pronunciations of things, just in general, that are outside of things. I think sometimes we get exposed to something and we're used to pronouncing it one way. Like when I was a kid, I used to say a lot like manga. I used to say that. And then I used to say, anime, right? I used to say that instead, but I think it's actually anime and manga, right? So hopefully it's right. I don't know. The pronunciation's hard. Like I said, zine, right? Zine, right? It's zine, right? I think. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm gonna trip up on pronunciations, just bound to happen because I'm not familiar with some, pronunciations, outside of that. But I think that's how you pronounce it, right? So yeah, they were various TV series I just absolutely watched from start to finish, So, Samurai Jack, right? I used to watch all of that. It was 5 seasons and very heartbreaking, Samurai Jack, his love story, one that I watched, one of the last ones. It was just really sad all the time, I just wanted Samurai Jack to have a happy ending. So, yeah. I'm sure again, you guys have seen, that movie Kill Bill, right? Too, or the series, right? I watched that. Some scenes were hard to watch, but the music was awesome, guys, for sure, right? I mean, in Kill Bill, right? You never forget that music. The woohoo woohoo hoo, right? Music. I'm not gonna sing here, obviously, but yeah. What was that? I don't know. Anyways, yeah. And then Hikaru no go, Hikaru. So yeah, it was one I absolutely loved. And it's one that reminded me of like how it's like when others are like doing tournaments against you. I'm more of a chess player, but I got into doing, games of Go for fun. And yeah, online back then because I got really into it. It's really hard. I don't really I haven't grasped it till today. I'm just a, chess player, but Go is a whole nother thing, So I think the series was really unique. It really reminded me of how others act, in chess tournaments and how serious people take things, right? You know, and Go tournaments are totally a thing, and it's hard. Yeah, and they even did, an illustrated series of this, and I don't think it lasted very long. The the series, the actual TV series, but it was one I never forgot, and I love the episodes of Hikaru no Go, right? And I could be mispronouncing characters till today, that happens, but I hopefully, yeah, it's an interesting board game TV show. So if you've never seen episodes of Hikaru no Go, check it out. Another one I grew up with that I watched, right? Blue Exorcist. Yeah, it lasted, I think it says here, 5 seasons. And yeah, it's another Japanese manga series. And yeah, a lot of manga series are, of course, illustrated, right? But I saw a lot, predominantly the TV versions. And then I had some comic books that, illustrated, type comic books that I had. I think I had some of, like, I mentioned Yu Gi Oh! And other ones, other series out of Asia too, as well. And some other ones, like that. But yeah, I mentioned my all-time favorite, I think on the shared Master Q, right, comics. That was, it's not Japanese, but yeah. I love Master Q comics. So I grew up being exposed to a lot of, Asian series too. And yeah. Another one, The Prince of Tennis, another manga series. So yeah. Um yeah, so it was pretty cool. I'm not a tennis expert and stuff. I think I suck at tennis, but it was one I really loved too. I just watched like all of it. Again, you know, um I think it really showed, the importance in some of the episodes, like teamwork, not giving up. So I really liked it for that, and it had some funny characters. I was like rooting for, always you're rooting for your favorite characters to win a match. Same thing with like Hikaru no Go, right? You're like, you can do it, right? You're rooting for them. They're not actual real life, of course, but it's we just develop these feelings for like characters we grow up with, and we come like drawn into the world that, is relatable to us. Like I think like, Karunogo, some of these characters, they had really tough obstacles in their life, and they did their best to overcome it, right? So yeah, and then another one is Sailor Moon that I grew up with, right? I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with. I think I had a Sailor Moon lunchbox or some Sailor Moon items for sure. And yeah, so then I mentioned Hello Kitty, right? So I had these some twistable crayons, right? It didn't look exactly like this. I think I had like a purple twistable crayon, set from, Asia that I got. And yeah, I had one that I never opened at all, or, not exactly this one. I can't remember exactly what it looked like, but I may still have it actually. Actually, I don't. I have some things that, and when I moved I had in storage that I never touched for quite some time, and I lost some things. So anyways, yeah, I was like, I'm never gonna open these twistable crayons. So I had Hello Kitty merch, other things. I think it had the penguin on it, the penguin character though instead on the crayons. I could be wrong, or it could have been something else, but it had some fun characters on the crayons that I had when I was a kid. But it looks similar to that, just it was purple, I think. And yeah, and then what else? I had this like little, I never forgot this gold, not gold, but it was like a bronze keychain with a little, it was like he was wearing a samurai hat. And yeah, and I put it on my fanny pack. And yeah, I used to collect a bunch of keychains from when I'm traveling. Collecting keychains has always been like something I've always done. Whenever I go to a new place, I'm like, I have to get a keychain. I absolutely have to. Like my mom even was like, "Yeah, here's your keychain." One time she got me one, because I just was collecting them wherever we'd go. I'd get a keychain every single place just to remember it by. So yeah, another TV series, or I think was it also films? Yeah, they're Zatoichi, right? So if you've never seen Zatoichi, it's it has a high rating. I remember watching it with my dad. And Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman. I think it's really really interesting, the series. Of course, if you're not into, samurai movies or, scenes like that, it may not be for you. But Zatoichi, Zatoichi, right, was one I really liked. There were other, I guess, samurai characters I grew up watching. I think even in the, other ones. I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but oh yeah, yeah. There was Afro Samurai, so I think I have it up here. This one. Yeah. So another series I used to watch, Afro Samurai, yeah. But I think my all-time fave was Zatoichi, because they had this dance scene. My folks and I, my dad used to play this scene a lot just for fun in the house quite a bit. and it's like the finale dance sequence of Zatoichi. I think it says 2003 here. I don't know if that, yeah. So, anyways, maybe I'll put a link to this in the description for fun so you guys can watch it. It's just, really cool. They have a great rhythm and it's very lively and fun. I think I shared it even in the Dippity stories one time. I was sharing all kinds of my fave, dance scenes. I used to dance quite a bit, guys. I wouldn't say I was huge on, Bratiratim dance. It's really hard to pronounce and it's really long to spell out. So I'm not gonna, do it. But um, I was more so someone who liked, I always said I should have done tap dance, right? And it sort of looks like, in the dance sequence, almost reminiscent of that when you hear them, dancing like that. It's really fun. You got to check out this dance clip if you've never watched it before. It'll cheer you up for sure. Who knows? You may start dancing, guys, if you're having like a sad day. This video was like always something I would like go to, and it's like fun. Yeah, so I really like dance. I think I like contemporary dance more. There's some really beautiful dance scenes that I've seen over the years. I used to watch dance competitions with my mom a lot, like So You Think Can Dance and all kinds. I didn't really watch Dancing with the Stars or stuff like that, but mostly like So You Think Can Dance and even some Bollywood, dance movies. Anybody Can Dance, one and two, and those the Bollywood films. So yeah, def check out this dance festival ending. I think it was very unique and really well done. What else? So yeah, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So I'm just showing you guys. I've actually been to the Petronas Towers when I was little. All the way to the top, guys. I think it's like what is it? One. I can't remember the exact how tall it is. Is it close to 1,500 feet or something, or way high? I don't remember. It could be more than that. My memory is kind of shoddy, but yeah, yeah, the glass and steel skyscrapers. So yeah, it's been so long since I've been over there. I haven't seen family in nearly 2 decades over there. I've written some poems on why that is too, a little bit indicative of that. Again, yeah, but anyways, I had some absolutely wonderful memories there, visiting fam and things like that. But yeah, the food was stellar for sure. Absolutely loved the food. I couldn't stop drinking watermelon juice and the chicken, tandoori chicken and curries. I love paratha and roti, all of that, and Indian curries. I'm all for that. So yeah, I have been looking through, some photos of the past and stuff, trying to jog my memory for these episodes too. And things to find, for lit magazine journals that I can connect to and just share a little bit more. I've never been to the Batu Caves, but we drove past it, I think, a couple times. Yeah, so Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, I think from, we flew from always from Minneapolis, Minnesota to over there with connecting flights. So, yeah, and one of my all-time favorite movies, I must say, in that part of the world, not necessarily Japanese or anything like that, but Bollywood would probably be Hum Tum, HUMTUM, 2004. I just rewatched this movie a lot myself. It was one I never forgot, and I love one of the songs in it. Um, yeah, it's like why are you stressing, right? I'm just trying to hang out and chill, right? Or it goes like that a little bit. I'm not going to sing on this podcast, guys, but I relate to one of the main characters because he was a cartoonist and I grew up just doing cartooning. And yeah, I love like comical, fun, it has some scenes of sadness, some scenes of joy, right? Things like that. But Hum Tum was really nice, and yeah, I can't speak any Indian languages or Hindi. I just know tidbits of like words and stuff that from time to time my dad would say and stuff, and sometimes I picked up stuff from films and stuff, but really, really not fluent in anything besides English, unfortunately. But definitely, I've written poems in other languages, like bits of French and Spanish, and I've never like had any translation poetry, except I've never tried submitting anything like that or poetry in other languages to places. Mostly, I just did some fun social media challenges and stuff like that. But yeah, any case, there's some movie recommendations and TV shows for you guys, tons. All of my podcast series I've ever done, or any series in general, I typically always give movie recs. That's just me. So yeah. these, I guess, are also movie recommendation episodes, right? You're like, wow, okay, so I have some things to watch now. But yeah, I mean, it's only like if you're into, this is a romance comedy, right? Hum Tum. And yeah, so there are, quite a few movies I grew up watching, that are based out of that part of the world, right? Never forgot Sailor Moon. I can't remember fully Sailor Moon, by the way. I may have to rewatch it for fun. So, just yeah. So another magazine I'll share just real quick is this one, Monkey. New writing from Japan. They're still around. By the way, I think I saw some 2025 post on here, but they have translations and stuff. I don't know how you really whether they have selections that they do for their series or how it really works. I didn't see any submission guidelines or anything like that. I think they're tied to I think, was it Stonebridge Press or something? Um, Nevertheless, they have some really cool, books and their series. Yeah. So yeah, Stonebridge Press. It's Monkey Imprint Books, right? So yeah, that's what it looks like, and they have that. And yeah, if you go to the shop, let's go here. So you can see they have volumes here, right? So yeah, it looks like they are. I think that says 2025, right? So yeah, it looks like they're working on, yeah, volume 6, 2025. So another one to check out, but I don't know how it all works, they're, how they do selections for the monkey series, yeah. So I think that's a lot of fun, a fun name to the series they have. Yeah, they do great work. I think it's really a really stellar series. You can see, on their social media channel. I've never read it, but I came across it and was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I wonder how, they do, their process, right? Selections and everything. I'm not really sure, but yeah, they publish, contemporary Japanese fiction in English translation, as well as other works, both by old and new writers, artists and translators from Japan, England, Canada, and the U.S. It says Monkey is the English language offspring of the Tokyo based Japanese literary journal Monkey, founded by Motoyuki Shibata, one of Japan's most acclaimed translators of American fiction. Selections are made by Shibata in consultation, with Ted Goosen and one of the leading translators of Japanese fiction, Meg Taylor, the managing editor. So, yeah, they have, some really cool things too. So it's a really, really stellar. You can see here, right? Has just a prime example of you know places highlighting, right, translations and poetry in other languages, and also too. So I think that's really nice. So yeah. Again, I'm not sure. Like, I don't see anything like for Monkey, like in terms of like chill subs and like duotrope listings and stuff like that. So I don't think they have that at this time, or I think I could be wrong. So I'm not really sure how like their selection and process works for this series Monkey, but it's yeah. But predominantly I wanted to focus on Tokyo Poetry Journal, but just sharing that's one I came across. I don't know if I'll do an episode on Monkey, but pretty cool, the work they have in that magazine as well. um, yeah, so that's Tokyo Poetry Journal, and that's summing up a bunch of memories I have of things I've can remember, in terms of my fam and memories. So just like sharing, adding additional bonus content, how I lit magazine journals remind me of different things I've experienced in my life, and they totally do. Like on the past episode, I was talking about how with car malarkey again, we are have some human beings have really deep connections with their vehicles, their cars, right, and places, right. Places are so trigger memories too. um Again, yeah, I haven't been to that side of the world in quite some time, so it's I have scrapbooks full of all my travels, again, predominantly, I misspoke a little bit on the past episode. So predominantly, I think, at age 11, that's when I stopped sort of traveling a bunch internationally, outside of the US. Before that, at that age, and before, I did a lot of traveling, more so with my family and folks outside, I remember the Singapore airport. I never forgot that burrito I got at the Singapore airport, guys. It was like 3 times the size of a regular burrito, and it was so, it was really large. I was like, wow, this is the burrito I get. It was like really massive. Never forgot that burrito I had at that airport. And yeah, and then, I've totally had, various Japanese foods and, things over the years, but I'd say I like sushi, but I'm not like, huge on that. But I love chicken pot stickers, a bunch of Asian dishes for sure. Yeah, recently my folks and I've been trying, I think it's Lao bun or, those stuffed buns, right? And yeah, so yeah, um, I love pot stickers and things like that, and noodles, all of that. Definitely, I think we've all tried, ramen, right, and other things, but yeah, we haven't done a food focused, lit mag or journal quite yet, so maybe that'll be next. I don't know. No guarantees. There are some episodes I want to cover some more distributors, for lit mags and presses. Of course, I don't have experience with every single one in existence, but that doesn't mean I can't share and talk about them, and things I learn about them. It may help someone, I've only covered, maybe one or two or a couple, right? And there are some, I think, some updates Chill Subs did, right? And some other things I came across, right, through Lit Mag News, right, that Becky runs, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so yeah, a lot, you can cover a lot in the Lit Mag world. There's so much, I think every space has quite extensive, right, history and background to it, and it's a massive, there are thousands upon thousands of lit mags and journals out there, right? So obviously, again, I'm not going to cover every single one, but I want to spotlight, some different things I noticed about them. Maybe share, my journey too in the writing and lit mag world along the way, so you learn more about me too. And maybe you come across some great movie recs, right? TV shows or some stuff. You're like, oh, I didn't know that, right? So I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, totally, if you like my, additional bonus content, that's great, but on either case, I'm still going to share, just for fun. But yeah, I just want to focus on lit mags journals presses and also give, tips to submitters, things I've run into, and yeah, and cover also platforms and services for, publishers or those running lit mags and journals. And it could help someone, I haven't tried every single thing in existence, platform service wise, but just talking about them, sharing that they exist, and organizing that, it takes a lot of time for, I think, lit mags and journals and founding editors to really research and find things, solutions, till today. So I'm the type of person that likes creating knowledge bases. That's something I've always done, in various roles, building like almost like wiki type pages and how to documentation. That was, in past roles, something I really had to do a lot, over the years, and almost every single role I've ever had. So yeah, so I think it helps for others to see, like, screen shares, visuals. I'm a visual person, so I need to have something, to see, right? So again, this is I mentioned this is an audio diary series, but it's also a video focused series to share, lit mags journals and, their pages, and some have really cool site designs too, I must say. So we'll cover more, in the future. No guarantees, right, on, episode scheduling. I just do these when I can. I have some upcoming things, coming up again with Dippy and the Lit Mag and Press I run. But yeah, definitely will try to do these when I can. I try to do, when I start doing some episodes, I try to do a bunch back to back, because I don't know, I think later in the year I probably won't have as much time as, we start seeing our submission queue, build up a little bit. But closer to the deadline, sometimes others submit and it's like, oh, no, so, but don't wait to the last minute, guys. To, if you know of a call, right, it's always better to submit earlier than later, right? But yeah, if you submit to places, right, just read through your submission, carefully, right? Again, always before submitting, and places like Tokyo Poetry Journal, right? Some places don't have blind and concealed reads, again, fully, right? They let you put your name and the amount of poems in the file name and the bio and the your submission, email. So or it could be, some places have it the other way where it's in the document file. Just be mindful about that. Like if you're doing that with places, right? Not all places have that in their guidelines, especially for contests, because they want to keep it fair, right? Blind concealed reads. So you want to really, you know, tug that out, right? When you're submitting to places, you can't always use the same document file, right? So I think I see poets a lot, they do that, and it disqualifies them from some really, cool contests, just because they, included identifying information and, things like that, right? Because some places absolutely don't want to know who you are or anything like that, or sometimes they submit way more than the allotted amount again. So don't do that again. But yeah, just of course, I cover this in some other episodes, but nevertheless, Tokyo Poetry Journal, again, awesome. We got cyberpunk poetry, visual poetry. They have a lot of cool, volumes and issues. Be sure to check it out. You can check out their shop again. Just remind yourself to read carefully where their issues, volumes, and TPJ press releases are totally in terms of like bookstores and shops and availability. But yeah, very cool. Nevertheless, I think there are again a large amount of lit magazine journals in the world, all over around the world that have a very unique style and focus again. So yeah, I haven't covered a lot of like focused translation lit magazine journals, but there are quite a ton of other ones I'm aware out there. So maybe we'll check out more later on. But P.S. guys, yes, there's a P.S. note all the way at the end of this nearly 1 hour long episode. I know you're like, didn't you cover everything? No, I didn't, obviously. But if you ever see that like lengthwise, it's probably indicative of me just sharing additional memories and things. Because I like to do that. I think of other things when I'm visiting lit magazine journals, and I think it happens to a lot of us. We again come into contact with you know, presses, magazines that focus on topics that we may really love, or even places, right? Locations. There's some fun lit magazine journals, by the way, that have, nothing but travel poetry or specific locations that I've submitted to in the past too. Yeah, so maybe we'll cover those as well. But anyways, I want to share this with you real quick. Volume 15, TPJ, I didn't click into it, but, you can see this one, right? So if we click into volume 15, again, it says this one explored nature of visual poetry, straddling artistic genres and going beyond language. It has typewriter art, visual music, architectural drawing, poetry too, essays, and yeah, so that's awesome. You can see all of the contributors there, and it's really cool in the poetry. So, if you scroll down, I didn't show you this earlier, but you can see previews from the issue. So we click on read, right? That's what it looks like. So yeah, visual poetry is really, cool, and unique overall. So yeah, they have this one Thunderbolt, you can see. So yeah, um, I think that's really neat. So Thunderbolt, right? Repeat. It looks like a repeating here, and yeah. So I love abstract visual poetry. It gets you thinking, So I think it's pretty unique, and obviously they have other ones in their, shop, right? And yeah, I clicked on books accidentally, but I meant to click on shop. So yeah, so if we go, let's just click into one of these again. Yeah, just to show you. So they have just the summary here and things like that. So I think sometimes on the latest issue, or it could be elsewhere, they have where you can see like previews of past issues, right? Like that, in the volumes, to see more details inside, or sometimes they have previews like that or samples. So that's nice. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that. So, if you've never tried visual poetry, totally do. There's some lit magazine journals actually that do nothing but that, and it's very cool and challenging. I always find it pretty fun. I've done some unique shape poems for sure myself, I must say. Not none, of course, that have been gotten anywhere placed, but just for fun, it's fun. Visual poetry for sure. Yes, and I don't know how to say have awesome days ahead in Japanese, but maybe I'll look that up later after this episode. But anyways, yeah, I like learning fun new words in other languages and stuff. I think it's pretty fun. But yeah, take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and yeah. And one more thing before I go, guys. So, the submissions page here, you can see, right? Just noting this, most of their deadlines looks like they always end towards the end of the year. This is again from 2024. I don't see anything specifying 2025 or the starting points of these, so I'm not sure when their windows are each year. You may just have to stop back if you're interested, because they are active, right? They posted on their blog, it looks like this year, right? June, the summer, and even on social media, right? They posted about the events and did some other ones totally. So yeah, you just got to pay attention to that. So yeah, besides checking chill subs and duotrope, I do do pit stops to social media feeds. Some places totally, again, as I mentioned with Car Malarkey, right? They post on their social media when they're open, their windows, instructions for submitting. So you want to just, try, you do your best to, follow that too in places you're interested in submitting to. Again, I don't think I submitted to Tokyo Poetry Journal. It may have been another lit mag journal, again, based out of Asia. I really can't remember. Was it Hong Kong or something? I can't remember at all. Sorry, but yeah, some lit mags and journals I submitted to, I lost track of at some point in time, and then I started um, not too long ago, starting using Chill Subs Tracker a bit more and stuff. But I honestly took a break from submitting, quite a bit, and occasionally just, I try to once in a blue moon because it's hard when founding editors also run lit mags, drones, and presses. They try to set aside time to share their work and do submissions themselves. But yeah, I'm gonna probably break from that for quite some time, especially doing this series. I don't think so, but yeah. Anyways, Tokyo Poetry Journal, yeah, TB, TPJ presses. Sorry, I was tongue tied there. Speaking of tongue tied, so real quick, I did have this up. I don't know if I shared this earlier, but anyways, just Bratanatyam. This was the dance style I did. Yeah. So it's Bharatanatyam. Bharatanatyam. So it's a tongue twister for sure. Yeah, it was really hard on the knees and ankles. I had like a click in my right ankle always, because of that. It developed after doing that dance specifically style. And yeah, it was two we did two performances back when I was, I think, before age 10 at this, again, the Southern Theater. And that's where, again, my mom did taiko drumming performances. A lot of really cool arts performances always happened at the Southern Theater back when I was in Minnesota. And yeah, so lots of knee surgeries, again, ankle, the instructors even. So, and yeah, so it's really hard on the body, I'd say, your knees and your feet. But yeah, it was a great learning experience nevertheless. I felt like I totally should have done, again, tap dancing more so, or even something closer to, you saw that, I'll drop the link again to that Zatoichi dance from 2003, because it's really just uplifting and fun. But yeah, I think I should have taken like tap dance or hip hop because I was just really into that. And I used to watch a lot of dance competitions around that, and even like those those group dance competitions too, like Jabberwockies, I remember, and some other ones too. But I don't remember what that show was called. There was like a the group dance performance one. What was it, guys? I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but it probably um has slipped my mind. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Um yeah. Oh yeah, I think it was American Best Dance Crew. That's what it was. Yeah. I think they canceled it at some point in time, but yeah, I don't really know what happened to some of the dance crews I used to closely follow, by the way. In either case, very cool, poetry, dance, music, and all of that. It's we can interconnect art, and in our work and memories and thread it all together into some really creative and beautiful works. Yeah, so I'm gonna dig through some Japanese comics and stuff, maybe some more things. And yeah, again, I love, you got to check out, again, it's not necessary, but it's a Asian comic series, Old Master Q. Again, if you like fun comics, I totally love that. Again, I think I shared it on one of the episodes of the podcast, but yeah, totally. Yeah, and maybe I'll follow up and rewatch some of the series I mentioned and stuff. It's been quite some time, I haven't seen anything anime, in a long time, or read anything manga. Oh gosh, guys, manga in a very long time myself. So yeah, it's always tricky pronunciations, right? For sure. Yeah, it's hard, but anyways, I'm not sure again how you say have awesome days ahead in Japanese. I don't know. I'm sorry. I do know how to say goodbye in Japanese, right? Isn't it sayonara, right? Sayonara. Did I mispronounce that? I'm sorry if I did. But yeah, I don't know a lot of words in Japanese. I'm sorry, but in either case, please do check out Tokyo Poetry Journal. They have some really great focuses across their volumes and issues and series overall. And yeah, so guys, one more recommendation. You're like, how many movie recommendations are you gonna give? This isn't a movie podcast, Jazz. But yeah. So this is not a movie per se, but a TV series, right? One I almost forgot, Parasite the Maxim. So they did make a Netflix adaptation of this, a live, was it a live action? Anyways, I don't think I'll watch the Netflix version of this, but this was a sci-fi horror um series, right? It only lasted like one season, as you can see, right? Parasite the Maxim, but it was really dark and really heartbreaking again, akin to I mentioned Attack on Titan, so I never forgot these two for sure. And yeah, so those are, some other ones to check out. Yeah, or another one to check out, I should say. So Parasite the Maxim to me, it was like reminiscent almost of like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I saw that like the old version, right? The 1978 version, and then also the Invasion 2007. But yeah, anyways, but it's sort of like, parasites, and it's really, really dark, some heartbreaking moments. If you're not really into like horror and stuff like that, and some, dark scenes, then probably don't watch it. But I felt it was really good, like the character development they did, and they made you really feel emotion in that series. Yeah, but really, really some, again, sad moments in the that series too. Yeah, anyways, just sharing. So I think that's all. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I gave you a bunch of TV show recommendations, movie recs again, and just for fun. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah.